Hi guys, welcome to Guitar Shed Video. Duncan Ryan here for you. And today what I'm going to be talking about is what's called E-flat tuning, which is an alternate tuning commonly used in rock, heavy rock, and of course heavy metal. Basically what E-flat tuning is tuning each one of your guitar strings down 1/2 step, or essentially making each one of the strings flat. Now what that actually means, now that's the fancy musical explanation of it, what that actually means for those of you who may not really know about flats, sharps, anything like that, is that all of your notes are going to be essentially 1 fret higher. So for example, if I was to play on the E string 2nd fret in standard tuning, which is E, A, D, G, B, E, I would have to get the same note, I would have to play on the 3rd fret of the same string in E-flat tuning. So it's all 1 fret up. Now to demonstrate what this actually makes a different, how this actually affects the sound, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a riff for you. There are no open notes in this riff at all, so it should be fairly simple here. In what would be the equivalent of standard tuning. Now this guitar is actually tuned to the E-flat, so you'll be able to hear the difference. So this is the equivalent of standard. Alright. And now this is how it would normally be played, but in E-flat. So it's going to sound a little bit darker, a little bit heavier, and I'll explain why in just a minute. Alright, and that was the same riff played, as I said, using the E-flat tuning. Now the reason you hear such a great amount of difference in the sound, when the notes were actually relatively close, and as you could hear, the intervals were all the same because I played it the same, the reason you're going to hear so much difference is, one, the strings are obviously a little bit looser in the E-flat tuning on a guitar as they would be as opposed to the standard E tuning. What that does is it allows your strings to vibrate a little bit easier, so it kind of gives you more vibration in the string, which in turn leads to a little bit heavier sound. It's also 1 step lower, and as proven by the extreme thrash bands and extreme metal bands, etc., heavier is usually lower sounding. That's why some bands will go crazy and use, you know, tunings like C, B. I've even seen bands use A standard tuning, things like that, which brings their bass notes down to a level where you're hearing really, really low frequencies all the time, pretty much, except when they're soloing on the very high frets. So what that really does is it creates a heavier and a darker sound. Another advantage to it is that singers tend to prefer E-flat tunings because actually when you add a flat to each one of those notes, it's played about the same way, but then the singer of your band can actually bring the frequencies of his notes down a little bit, and it creates the illusion of being the higher pitched notes. That's why a lot of bands, Judas Priest, the Scorpions, there are tons of them, as they've aged and as their singers are having trouble hitting those really, really screeching high notes that they used to, you know, night after night after night on tour, a lot of them will transition their songs into E-flat tuning, which is a little bit easier on the singer. So if you're a band that's going to be, say, on tour or doing multiple shows a night or single shows every night for a long period of time for some reason, you really might want to consider the possibility of using E-flat tuning if your standard songs are actually in E, because, as I said, that makes it a lot easier on your singer's vocal cords. And trust me, he'll appreciate it. Alright, so that was the basis of the E-flat tunings. As usual, questions, comments, send them in. Love to hear from you guys. Peace out.